So we're going to try out this Tron deck, the GruulTron, and just get an idea for how the generic Tron base works and how the interactions go, how the mana sits, and the like. So opening hand feels pretty good. We have 2 pieces available for our Tron mana base. Also, early turns with Expedition Map, Chromatic Sphere can lead us into Ancient Stirrings or Explore. So we're going to feel pretty good about this and keep it. I did decide to start off with the Sphere here because I wanted to get this Explore down on turn 2. It'll allow us to draw a card when we crack the Sphere. Gets us another one, gives us a pretty good chance of getting the Tron engine online. You see here off of the draw on Explore, we do get that last land. And this means that by turn 2 here, we now have 7 mana. That is faster than you could get with 8 posts, definitely. But it's not something that usually works out that way. And with this extra mana, I can now feel free to throw down another Sphere. I could throw down the Expedition Map and even crack it this turn, depending what I so desired. Obviously, what I'm going to kind of start looking for here is colored lands. We only have those 2 forests in the deck, so we're going to try and get those out just so we can get things going right away. Now I will warn, this is a pretty terrible game for my opponent, but I did want to at least keep it in here just because of the fact that this is a pretty good example of how the deck can get a really solid draw and how it can really start moving. I'm going to discuss here the ability of the deck, to play your biggest creature, which is usually going to be Ulamog's Crusher, and get that in on turn 4, which is as early as 8 posts got it, but you do have the exception that this deck provides to get the turn 2 Gruul Signet into the turn 3 Crusher. Here we would have been in a similar situation where on turn 2 we had the Tron base, that's 7, and if we had a basic land drop on turn 3, we would have enough available to put that Crusher into play. And here we do draw into Karavek's Torch, so we do have one of our other win conditions available to us if we got our lands online. With Reap and Sow and whatnot, we should have a pretty good opportunity to turn these into other Tron lands and really ramp up that mana base. Chromatic Star is going to give us one of those opportunities to get that 1 red mana that we need to get that Torch into play. So, client lagging a little bit, we are going to cast an Entwined Reap and Sow. Putting it out here because my opponent is a little bit behind on mana anyways, and it's going to just put him that far off it. I decided to go get that other forest just in case we get another Reap and Sow. We don't have a Prism up or anything, so we're going to be heavily relying on these stars to change colors, and more importantly, we're going to want, we only have 1, and if we keep just that 1, what we're going to want from it is red mana to cast Torch. So we use our remaining green source here and cast an Ancient Stirrings. Do find Ulamog's Crusher, which we're going to go for. Everything else there is mana ramp, and that's not really important to us at this point in time. Now we can get this Crusher onto the battlefield and start doing damage. At this point in time, even, it's pretty much game over. You have this available here, this engine. Tapping out 4 lands, we're going to put Crusher into play. We're going to be able to put the Fengraf down, so if he does have a Doomblade being mono black, then he can feel free to kill it off, and we will easily sacrifice the Fengraf. That will be our only creature in the graveyard and bring it back. And get that going on there. The other Chromatic Star here is going to give us, again, a card draw. We have 1, all we need for the ability on that Torch. Really has to get this, you see Geth's Verdict here is what he has an answer for. He really needs a Doomblade or a Verdict there, because if that Crusher attacks once, and he's only got these 2 swamps and no other permanents, then he's basically restarting his entire board state. So it does, least in his benefit, get a 3rd land into play. Oddly enough, he does say this is a misclick here, but decides to Sign in Blood, targeting me. And we see what we have going on here. He concedes in response here, but I think it was still a pretty good game to show because of the fact that it shows a pretty solid acceleration for this particular deck. Next turn, we were probably going to crack the Fengraf and try and get this Crusher back into play, make him use another kill spell on it if he has it. He's going to have no available source to target down Karavek's Torch, being that he seems to be mono black. So that's oddly enough going to be our big win condition here. We're going to keep trying Crusher, but odds are good that the win condition in this particular matchup is going to be Torch, since he really doesn't have a way to stop it. So we're going to move into the second game here with the kind of introductory Tron deck, I think I'm going to call it. Opening hand is not good at all. You could, I guess, make a chance here. You do have Urza's Mind and Urza's Mine. You could chance this. We are on the play, so we're not going to get that extra draw. You would put it out, try to use Star or Sphere on the next turn. At the very least, you would be, digging a couple of cards in. You know, say turn 1 mine into turn 1 star. On your second turn, you would draw a card. So that's one card you're drawing. If you still don't find it, you siphon 1 mine through the star to draw a second card, see if that finds it. You would turn that colorless to green, and then Ancient Stirrings at the absolute worst case, and you would find that second land, definitely. So I guess there was a chance to be putting this hand together and keeping it. You know, you have some chances here with the prisms to draw, get that Crusher into play. Stirrings, you would probably find that second land, but I decided I didn't want to take the chance, and I would drop down. I think maybe that was a mistake. We really can't tell because it was such an iffy call. But we're going to keep this hand. We had 2 lands available, Explore plus turn 1 star coming up for us as we proceed here. So we're going to pass it along here. We are playing goblins in this particular matchup, and I think this is going to be one of the decks that is definitely strong against all of these Tron decks, because what they lose out on, you know, I talk about how aggro decks get a bit of an advantage because when you have an 8-post mana base, you have Glimmer Post, which is going to gain you a significant amount of life over a period of time, and you are going to be losing out on that. And with this particular deck, they do compensate a little bit. Going to play Explore here, see if we can find a third land, which we cannot. Definitely not in our favor. Probably should have siphoned some of that extra mana into the star to draw here, but because, as I was saying, you are playing these fast aggressive decks and you're not looking at Glimmer Post anymore, I think this particular deck works fairly well to compensate with that thanks to the Marauder combination, but you need to find the Marauder and you need to get it in play as soon as possible to make that happen, something which, spoiler, we're not going to be able to do. So more guys come down. This is going to be probably more the combo version of goblins. Still don't find that third land. Going to attempt to draw some cards here off of things. Decided to put out Prism to draw a card, because if we just put out Spheres, we're not getting anything going this turn. Maybe the better turn there would have been Signet, because even though we didn't find the third land, what we would have gained is at least that extra mana that we need later on. So things are looking pretty bad here. He does hit that Bushwhacker and is going to take a significant swing here. And you see even just the Foundry Street Denizen going to be able to hit 4/4. Drops me down to 6 life, and these guys, just as is, are going to be able to do lethal damage and still have not found that third land. So this game is pretty much over. This is just playing it out at this point in time. Explorer does find us that, and we can get down a Sphere. But it really doesn't matter, and I think this is, you know, again, a terrible game for me, but we're not going to do much editing out of decks unless they are non-competitive, and it really just turned out to be kind of what I expected in the Tron matchup, that when you face down faster decks like this, and we may see an increase in goblins if control becomes kind of a thing, depending how frequent we see things like Crypt Rats. But with these faster aggro decks, like even Stompy, I think has a much faster clock than Tron can handle, especially one with such a small creature base like this.